Okay, so in this video we'll learn about looping over a list or iterating over a list. So when I was started thinking on how we can learn the iteration or like for loop, so I came across this a notebook which I have done long back. So I will provide the link to this notebook. It's available in my GitHub. So let's begin understanding how the looping work in for loop works over the list. So here I'm defining a list scores and students, and where again the indexing part, it always starts from 0. Then we are printing the list first element and the fourth element. This code will give error because there is no fifth element obviously. So looping through the list, this is something which I want to cover. Okay, so let me increase little bit. Yep, I think this is perfect. Okay, so now for looping we can use a for loop. So I will cover other loops as well in some time in the next videos. However, let's focus on the for loop. So the syntax is for x in the list. Now this important to know, x shall be replaced with a variable name of your are choosing. So whatever we want to use, it's just a variable. Okay, in the list is the given list for on which I want to iterate. For example, in this list scores defined above, we can use x as mentioned below. Okay, so for x in the score, print x. So what it is doing, it is basically printing elements of the list, which is nothing but, if you see here, these are the list elements. Okay, now this is printing one by one here below, right? Now there is not wrong in doing this. However, instead of using x, we can replace x with score, right? So that makes more sense, right? Because what we are printing is score in scores. So scores is a list of scores, and we every individual element is a score, right? So that's how we can, so this score and then length of score, so we can see the iteration part. So iteration number 1, the index is 0 and the score is 88. So iteration number 2, score is 92, and similarly we have index 5. So how list length and for loop iteration are related, so that's something we want to know, right? So we notice that there is a list of number 6, number of iteration for loop completed list is 6, right? So length and the number is same, right? The length is 6 and the number of iteration is also 6, right? So every time, so basically what happens, right? So for the first time when it comes, so at 0th index, this is the score list, and then this score value is basically the score variable. It's a local variable. Okay, it's a local variable, and this 88 will be updated into the score, and that's where we see for first iteration we will see the value 88. Now when it goes for the second iteration, we have already accessed this, right? So we'll go for the next element, which is 92. So the score will be referencing or get updated with value 92, and then you see in the next iteration we are getting 92 value and index 1. So you see index 1 and there's a 92, right? And similarly goes on with index 2. Now we have already accessed 92, so the score is updated with 78 value, and in iteration 3 we can see that, right, 78 is being printed here as well. Similarly for index 3, the 90 value, iteration index 4 and index 5. Okay, so this is how the iteration, this is how we iterate over a list in Python. Okay, don't worry if it is not making much sense to you, or you are finding it very overwhelming or difficult to understand. Not to worry, it's very simple. It just you don't know it right now. When you start practicing it, you will be master in this. Okay, so that is a thing which we should know about it. Now let's do a little bit of practice. there are two things which I want to tell you about how we can do. So let's come back to our Jupyter notebook. And guys, this Jupyter notebook will be available to you in my GitHub account, where we have, if you remember, we have created a GitHub repo. I am just working in that repo only, and once I am done with the entire course, all the Jupyter notebooks will be available there. Okay, so now what we are going to do, iterating over a list. And we will be what we will be knowing about. Okay, so we'll be discussing about the for loop, and we'll also be discussing something called enumerate. So these are the two things which we will be discussing about. Okay, so one is a for loop and then another is a enumerate. So enumerate is another keyword which we can use. It's a function which we can use so that we can get the index and the value as well. So if you remember, in that in this particular case, I am just getting the counter. Using counter, I have created the index and the iteration. So index, how I'm getting score, counter is something which I am using as a index to understand, but there is a enumerate function which we can use, and then we can do that. So we'll see that. So let's do a for loop. So for color in colors. Okay, so I want to print the color. Perfect. Let me just yeah, I think that should be okay. So simple, right? So for color, this is a local variable, and this is colors is the list which we have already declared, and then I'm just accessing every element one by one and I'm printing it. Okay, perfect. If you want to override, and let's do like this. Okay, so we can also do that in a straight line. So this is accessing every element and doing it. So this is the one way of doing. Okay, going forward we'll learn comprehension, and then I will remove this for loop, and also we will be learning about special functions like map, reduce, filter. That's where, and lambda functions. Yeah, so function is another thing which I should cover. Yeah, I'll cover with after the list. Okay, so then moving on, so we will be now working on the, so this is iterating over a, so this is, let me put a comment, iterating over a list using a for loop. Simple. This is also iterating over the loop with the for loop. Now we learn iterating over a list using the enumerate function. Now for number in numbers, print number. Okay, perfect. Everybody clear? Now this is very simple. We are just iterating over, so this is one thing, right? Now, but here we are not doing a simple for loop. We want to index of the, so there is a function called enumerate. Okay, so enumerate. Now what enumerate gives additionally, it will give the index as well. So it will give the index as well. Then I can do one thing. I can do this way. I think I have covered that f. Yes, I think yes. Formatting I have covered already. So I can tell what is the let's say index. So let me give it index, which is basically going to be index, and then number. What is his number? Number. Okay. Then the number, right? So let's see what we get now. Voila. That's great, right? So now I know the index of the number. So this is basically at 0th index 1. So then 1 index 2, so something of like that, right? So you know what is indexing now. But using enumerate, we can also get that and loop over the list and getting the index, because these are the two things list will have, right? One is an index and a number. So at what index, what number, then accordingly we can change the number and we can do all sort of manipulation to the numbers, right? So yeah, I think that's all for this video. Next video we'll learn about slicing a list. Okay, see you in another video.